Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome to the adventure of being an access facilitator. I'm here with Miss Simone Milasas, and I am so excited for this conversation. For whatever reason, it's like been bubbling in me ever since Simone and I had a conversation. I don't know when it was. It seems like a billion years ago, but it was probably like 3 days ago. um, and we were looking at, there's this really cool mentorship series that's coming up that's for all facilitators. And it got me looking at what if we could actually invite people to know about the adventure of being an access facilitator. And how that started like talking to me in my world was, what did you want to be when you grew up, grow up, grew up, grow up? And I started looking at, we were just having a little conversation behind the scenes. Like, I've always been a dreamer. I got really into like, as I got older, I thought I would like to be involved in like politics. And basically, I've always wanted to change the world. And so much of everything I have chosen along the way has led me to access. And I personally think access is the one thing that is actually capable of creating change in the world. And so, Simone, I just wanted, you've been like such a dynamic um, like drive visionary of like everything that access is becoming and has become. And so I just wanted to like hear from you. What did you want to be when you grew up, and how did access come into your world?
Okay. So the first thing I can remember that I wanted to be, and I have no idea at what age, was a criminal lawyer. Weirdly. It's like I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. And so that's what I used to talk about as a kid. But I need to tell you a little funny story about my niece. Okay. She's 22 years of age. She's super little, right? I think she was like 6, maybe 5 or something like that. And we were sitting outside one day and asked, talking to her about what you want to be, what you want to be when she grows up. And she looks at us and says, a lingerie model. And we were like, what? Where'd you even get that from? So now it becomes this joke because she's 22 and we're like, so you're going to be that lingerie model?
Yeah.
um, I mean, I think you're allowed to change your mind. Yeah, but I wanted
Hey,
to be,
you can also be a lingerie model, It's
yeah,
great.
yeah, I know. It's like, but at 6, and I'm like, you go, live the dream, be a lingerie model.
Yeah.
Not just a model. It was like very specific, is what yeah. So, so I remember wanting to be a criminal lawyer, and to be honest, I think I started looking into how much studying there was to be a lawyer, and I was like, oh, because I also, which was the dream I remember very vividly, is wanting to see the world. Like I just wanted to see everything, and not necessarily. I was talking to someone about this the other day. Not like, yes, the cities, yes, the museums, yes, the art galleries, yes, the history, all of that. But I was more intrigued about, I'd like to find out how people choose to live. And so when I eventually did go traveling, I hardly went to any big cities. We drove, a friend of mine, myself, and we camped all around Europe. And so we'd go to small towns and, sit in a bar, a restaurant, and meet local people, and or at the camping site. And I thoroughly enjoyed just asking questions and finding out how people chose to live, because I realized that the way I grew up in Sydney, Australia, in a place called Sutherland Shire, which was just all, you know, not much diversity there, I was like, there has to be something different than this. So that's what really drove me, was to just explore the world. And then the second thing, like I remember at high school, people used to, what topics are you going to study so that you can, fulfill your dreams? And I was like, my dream is to travel. So the second thing was having a business. And it was only because I don't know where I got it from, Megan, but I must have been watching different things and seeing how if you had a business, you could change things. Like you could invite people to someone, or like it was really malleable. You could change the trajectory of how something was if you had a business. I did notice that a lot of the times people would say to me, well, what sort of business? And I had no idea. And so they would sort of dismiss me because I was like, I just want to own my own business. Like, I just want to have something that I can be creative with. I think that's more along the lines of where I was heading. So, yeah.
That's so funny because I also any like I think I thought I wanted to be maybe a lawyer and then like a politician and then a journalist, but every time I like looked at the coursework that was required to get there, I was like, what is the easiest way to just get a degree so that I can maybe get a job one day?
Well,
Which is hilarious
journalism.
because
I remember
I
I did that as for school. Like, I don't know, in year 10, we used to have like it'd be like school experience week. So you'd have to find someone that you could go get a job with. And I did that at journalism. So, because I forgot about that. I was going to study journalism as well. I think we have these themes that people want to do.
yeah.
I had to like be with this journalist for a week and like shadow them basically. And I remember we went to this institution that was, it wasn't far from, what is that movie with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Uh,
Yeah.
it, there was a story there, and I was just like, what the hell? Like, I was like 16 and just like, oh my God. And all these different variations of stories and everything. So, but I don't think it's really like, I think I just toyed and played with so many different things, and it wasn't really pinging me. The last thing I thought I wanted to do was be a naturopath. And this was just before, just I don't know if you can hear the birds, they sound amazing, at El Lugar in Costa Rica. And I paid my tuition fee and everything to become a naturopath up in Queensland. And then I found Access. And I had another business at the time as well. Like, I had a business that I was running, but I thought I'm going to study naturopathy on the side and do all of that. And then I never went ahead with it because I ended up discovering Access.
Well, and it's such a cool lead in. I'm loving all the stories because I think there's something that so I was taking a lot of access classes just because it created my life to be something so wonderful. It made my job in the real world way easier. It made everything easier. And I remember I was listening, like doing a telecall or something with Dane, and he kept talking about like get the energy of what it is that you'd like your life to be like in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And anything that has that energy, go there, choose it. And so I was like, wow, well, like what is that? And I was like, I love the energy of when I'm being in an access class. And it was like, I'd go to an access class and then I'd leave and I'd be like, oh man, I wish I could just be back in that class all the time. And I started, was like, okay, well, I'll just choose something that follows that energy. So I became a bars facilitator. So if you're watching and you're like, I just love access classes and you're not a bars facilitator, you can become one in a weekend. It just takes 3 classes and you can start facilitating bars. I didn't think I could be an actual facilitator. I thought some like special healer person. At the time, Access was very much like, I don't know. I feel like the people that facilitated me, they were spiritual gurus and who knows. So I was like, but I'll just give it a go. And I did my first class and I was like, like the energy was off the fucking charts. And I was like, whatever this is, going. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'll have more of this. And that was like the moment I was just like, okay, apparently I'm facilitating classes. And I don't know about you, but like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have like a 5-year plan or a business plan to become a facilitator. It was just like choosing in 10-second increments. And I wanted to ask you, number one, what it was like for you. And then also, if you could weave it into, because I don't, we have access consciousness now. It's in 186 countries. There's over 13,000 facilitators around the world. I think the BARS manual alone is in like 20 languages. I might have made that up. It's up there. It's a lot of languages. But it was, and it was all started by Gary Douglas, who just like was looking for something different and wanted to, gift people something different and create something different. But again, it wasn't like he had a business plan and how he was going to get there. It was just like this thing that kept growing all along the way. So,
Well,
when did you know?
yeah, I'm a bit similar to you've got no idea. I've got so many birds out in my balcony right now. It's really cool.
They're like, yay!
Yeah, they were like, yay! So I'm the same as you two, Megan. I came along and I was like, holy shit, what is this stuff? Like, I was like, what? And bars wasn't actually something I was super interested in. I think because I had to lie down on a massage table and lie still while someone was touching my head. And I was like, no, 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 tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. Like, I really enjoyed the processing and the questions and the conversation. That was very intriguing to me until the day that I went, my head is like throbbing. And I was like, oh, get my bars right. Okay, yeah. So I love bars now. I don't know what I would do without it. I honestly don't. And body work. But the processing was what was really appealing to me. And I had my own business. So when Gary and I met them in Australia at a Mind, Body and Spirit Festival in Sydney, and I had vaguely heard about Access. I didn't know about bars, nothing. And then I met them, etc. And I ended up going to a class that Gary did called Out of the Box. And I was like, oh my God, this is everything that I have been, looking at. Like at that moment, he was talking about living a life of no judgment. And I remember standing in Sydney in the middle of Oxford Street, which is a super busy street. And I rang Gary and I was so like, my proprioception was just all over the place. And I rang him and I was like, I felt like I was going to be sick or something. And he said, is there a seat near you? And I said, yes. And he said, go sit down and keep talking to me. And I did. And he was like, what are you aware of? And it was like, after this whole class, I was like, I'm aware of, it's almost, I don't know why, because it makes me cry. It's like, I'm aware of everybody's judgments and where everybody is functioning from these limitations in this really busy street in Oxford Street, Sydney. And he was like, okay. And then he started talking to me about some tools of being an allowance of it, but not cutting off my awareness. And also another tool that we have is interesting point of view, just because I was like, whoa, these energies were just hitting me. But from that moment on, I was so intrigued. I was like, what the hell are these tools? This is like everything that I could perceive about living, and yet nobody was talking about it. Everyone was like, and what are you going to study? What are you going to be when you grow up? Are you going to get married? Are you going to have kids? And I was like, I don't want this. This is different. This is so different. And I'd been trying to fit in my whole life. So I became very intrigued. And because I was in Australia and, Gary and Dane hadn't been out there very much and there wasn't a great deal going on, me being me, I was like, okay, so when are you coming next time? And I ended up organizing my first, like what now is Choice for Possibilities. It was level 2 and 3 at the time. I ended up organizing that class. And there was like 35 people in it. And Gary was like, oh, we could do with someone like you, working. I was like, no, 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 no. I've got my own business, like, yes, I'll organize this class, but no, 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 no. And I had no intention of working with Access and definitely no intention of facilitating. And then Gary did this class, and this is on Access Me, which is one of our apps, which is friggin' brilliant. Okay. It's a small amount of money per month, and you get access to about 25 years worth of classes with Gary and Dane and myself and everything. If you're on there, you can go find this class in San Francisco. I can't remember the year. It would be around 2002, 2003, maybe. And it was called the business class. We kept it simple in those days, just the business class. And I was so in debt, and I knew I was in debt. I didn't know how much. I was in business, I was running stuff. So yes, there was business costs, there's all of this, but I wasn't really willing to have a look at my financial reality in a clean way, is what I'd like to say, like a clear way. And my father, who I absolutely adored, I was talking to him about this class that Gary was doing in San Francisco. And he said to me, Simone, you need to go there. He said, it's probably going to cost you about $10,000 for the class, the ticket, the accommodation, etc. He said, but you need to go to figure out if this is what you want to do with your life. And I remember when Dad said that, I was like, what do you mean? This is what I want to do with my life. I'm just going for the tools, like you, Megan. Like I was just like, I just want to add more tools so I can increase my business. And it was later that I could just hear what my father was saying. I was like, he knew before I knew that I was going to be working with Access. And so I went. One of the things that Gary would always mention in class, it doesn't do it so much anymore. In the early classes, which you can listen to on Access Me, he would say, so when you're working with clients, or when you're facilitating, or when you're this, and you'd always refer to a tool of how you could use it, like facilitating. And it used to annoy me sometimes because I'd think, I'm not facilitating, I have a business, these tools are for me. They're not for
Right.
empowering others. They're for me, you know.
Yeah.
And he would say, so I'd go, oh, I'll just use it for me. And I always had that, I'll just use it for me. And facilitating was not something that was on my radar for a really long time. Even when I started working with Access, I loved the business side of it, but it wasn't really, you know, facilitating classes that was on my radar. And I'd bet you $1,000. Well, maybe, I don't know, you might know. Guess where I did my first foundation class?
Where?
Sweden.
No way.
Yeah. Gary was like, you need to go to Sweden. And two of the
My
people that
God.
Victor and Amanda, it was their mom, Nina. She was in the class, and that's where I did my first foundation class ever. So,
Oh.
yeah. Luckily, you didn't know it's not $1,000.
I was like, I have no idea. I've never heard that story before. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, it's like there, I just love hearing the story because I think there's when I remember there's bars facilitators. Well, at the time there was like bars facilitators and I think certified facilitators. And I thought certified facilitators meant you had to like really fucking know everything about access consciousness and like all the things, and I was like, I will never ever be one of those because clearly that's for somebody, who is like a wizard basically. And I remember I actually went to my first certified facilitator training when I was 9 months pregnant. So I was like, if I don't do this now, and I was a last minute choice. Like 2 weeks before the training, I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm gonna have a baby and I'll never do it. And I remember you were doing like the commerce time sections at that time, and you were talking all about the business. And I was just like, oh my God, even if I just came for the business section of this is like everything, And so I think I just want everyone listening to know like everything that you hear in classes, that's how Access is running and growing the business. I think sometimes it's like there's this like, oh, there's this hidden secret of how to become a facilitator or facilitate classes. Like it's all there for whatever you're willing to have. And truly creating a business is also the tools of creating your life. And like you're saying on Access Me, this is the other thing that I love. If you were looking at, okay, you wanted to be a criminal lawyer or
Yeah.
possibly a journalist, or you had business, or like, whatever, the tools apply everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere. You're not like pigeonholed into one particular topic. You can you can literally create your own special topic. We have hundreds of thousands of them on our website. And that's why our website has so many classes on it, because the creativity is off the charts. And I was also looking today at like, with the world of AI and everything that's like, it's like this reality is trying to get you to stop being so creative. Like just go here and it'll give you all the answers. You don't even have to write anymore. You don't even have to like really think that much. It'll just tell you all of the answers. And Access is truly like the absolute flip of that. And we're going to ask you questions. In classes, it's all about questions. And as a facilitator, I love hearing you, Simone, because you're always like, you just show up and
Yeah.
you ask.
Yeah. And it's constant. Like it's absolutely constant. Like I love when you said that about certified facilitators. Like they're the wizard. But I mean, I've been working with Access Consciousness for 25 years. I was worldwide coordinator for 18 years. And then Gary and Dane asked me to facilitate some other classes. So, I said yes. And then I looked at that, and I'm still involved in the business. It's a beast. Like the business of Access Consciousness is an absolute beast. I mean, Megan, you're heavily involved in it. There's so much going on. But none of us, it's not about getting it right and at all. And I mean, even this morning, it was something with business. It's like I noticed I got super intense about something. And I was talking to Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and I got super intense with these two people, and he went, good. And but the thing was, but I didn't want to be functioning from the rightness of my point of view, because the one thing I see within business is we have these amazing systems, and then people go, oh, this works, So we'll create this as a structure, and now it's a structured reality. And it's like, no, every single day is about being in question. Every single part of the business of access consciousness needs to be about being in question and not functioning from structured realities. That being in question, being like, oh, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? It's like one of the people we work with, she said, everybody has a different point of view. But I said, everybody is going to have a different point of view. Now we get to choose. Now we get to play what's actually like going to create something different and going to create something greater. And for me, it's like I see a lot of people come along who get very excited, like you said, and they go, oh yeah, you know, I want to be a facilitator. But then they have no idea how to be with business, and they think that it has to look a certain way, and anything you think it has to look like, it's not. It's like flip it. It's the opposite. Yeah. It's so much about being in question and discovering and exploring, like, what next? Trying something. Like the amount of times I hear people go, oh, I tried that, but it didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work last year, or it didn't work for John Smith in this country. What if you gave it a shot? Like, choice creates awareness. Like, what can we be out there in the world that creates a difference? Because honestly, if you're listening to this, you're one of those people that we're going, will you help us change the world? You know? And another thing too, like, but you have to choose for you. You have to trust you. Like, don't trust me, don't trust Megan. It's like, you've got to choose for you and choose what works for you. But I know we're doing this mentorship, and that's why we were actually meant to do the first call today. And then we ended up saying, let's just do a live and talk about it. And I like, if you've got even like an ounce of anything in your body and your being that you go, yeah, I'd like to choose something different. What if you came along and found out what this was like? You could be a bars facilitator, have your own business, and do a bars class once a month. You could be a bars practitioner. You could be a facelift facilitator. Like, there's so many different things that you can choose. You can become the certified facilitator wizard. Doesn't mean that you've got it right. It's just a choice.
And, you know, if you look at it, like, if you really love the tools of access, hopefully you're listening to this. If you're still listening, you do. Look at what it would be like if you were actually more involved in basically creating a world without judgment, like someone's talking about, like a world where people can have more ease. And if we look at the world right now, Jesus Christ, like, there's a lot going on, and a lot of people don't know where to actually go to have more ease, to find more ease, to have more of the space of being that a lot of access tools give you. And so if that lights you up at all, this is really to invite you to the adventure of that. There's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. It's truly, like someone said, living in 10-second increments and just going for the ride and choose, 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 choose. And if you are already a facilitator, what else is possible? You know, what if we're just getting started? And what, you know, if you're listening, we have this, like, so Gary, Simone, we had a meeting. It was like, what if we actually, like, bring all of us together that have all these different pieces about creating the business and offered it to people for $25 a call, which is ridiculously, it's basically free. And allow, like, I really look at it as like this, like, it's going to be one call a week every Thursday. And anyone who's a facilitator, a bars facilitator, a facelift facilitator, a body process facilitator, we have all types of facilitators. If you're listening and you're like, I want to be one, but I don't know what, you can always email customer service at accessconsciousness.com if you can't find it on the website. But what if we got together and truly explored not only the tools that we have and the questions that we have, but hey, what else is possible now on that creative edge of possibilities and consciousness? So,
and you know, Katusha, who's one of our French translators who speaks many languages, she wrote in there that we have the bars manual in 36 languages.
Oh, I was way underestimating. That's a lot of language.
36. I'm like, that's amazing. But you know, I just Googled while we were talking. I was like, how many languages are there in the world? Do you know how many there are in the world?
There's a lot. I have Googled this before.
Over 7,000. Over 7,000.
Because there's all the different dialects. Like, I think it's like Africa alone has like 10,000 or something, you know? So it's funny.
Australia? I mean, it's not English. No.
Australia is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
What are like, so what's, I just, one more thing. I know we've gone a little bit long, but what do you love? Like, what do you find adventurous in all the classes that you do? Like, what is it that keeps you like, fuck yeah, I want to keep going as a facilitator? Because I
Uh,
know it's not okay. And
yeah, it's not
it's
always
like,
easy.
yeah.
And uh, there is so much that has changed for me over the years, like so much. And I'd say the key tool that is number one that anyone that is a facilitator should embrace is relaxation. Because when you, it's just like, wow. I mean, when you're facilitating, relaxation, doing a live relaxation, living relaxation, or whatever you're choosing. And I would say I mean, just, it might sound like cliche, but honestly, like the changes and the aha moments that people have in a class and when they get something, because the tagline of Access Consciousness is empowering you to know that you know. So access, like facilitating is not about coming in and going blah, 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 and telling people what something is. It's, we have conversations, there's processes, etc., and about asking questions. And like someone come into a class, right? So when you've been asked a question, it's like, oh, what's that? And to see people wake up and acknowledge how much they are aware of and how much they know, and they don't have to function from trauma and drama and Dios mío, mio Dios sort of thing. That is such a gift. And I just did an advanced body class here at El Hogar, and they are one of my favorite classes. And a lot of the body process classes, it's not about talking. It's about being there and the energy and running the processes and the bodies. And you cannot describe what that's like. At the end of it, everyone's just like, oh, this, this. But then you do like a choice for possibilities, which is more about talking, or I just did relationship done different as well. And there's all I mean, relationship done different. Okay. That, like, we looked at this we just did a certified facilitator training. There are so many tools that Access Consciousness has to create any relationship you desire. Like, you want to find a man, we got the tools. You want to find a woman, we got the tools. You want to get married and have kids, we've got the tools. You want to be single your whole life, we've got the tools. You want to have 10 lovers, we've got the tools. Like, it's about looking at what it
You want to be a criminal attorney?
got
Relationship
the
done
tools.
different.
Yeah, but it's like that we've got tools that literally can change the world,
Yep.
that are changing the world.
Yep. They
Yeah.
are. Yeah, I was talking with Pam the other day because she was at the class with you and is looking at just, she's getting so excited about the possibilities of like taking these tools into hospitals or like places where you have to have really hard conversations with people or deal with a lot of difficult people. This like anytime there's like this huge like charge, these tools can just melt everything and give you a totally different sense of what's possible. So I'm excited.
Me
So
too.
that's what we're going to be looking at, is where else we can go, what we can contribute to you as a facilitator on the mentorship series. There's 12 of them. And I really like, there are so many mentors, I would say, within Access Consciousness that I couldn't fit them all in 12 weeks. But so we'll add to it. If you guys like it, we'll just keep going and see what we can contribute. And if you're like, but I'm not a facilitator, hey, you can become one really quickly. You can be a bars facilitator. We've got global facelift coming up in less than a month. It's only like 2 or 3 weeks. So you can become a facelift facilitator. You can become a body process facilitator. There's all types of facilitators. You could be all of them, you could be everything.
I just want to add one more thing too, is so if we've got 12 calls planned, that's with 12 different people. And I highly recommend going to those 12 classes, like, because most people would go, oh, I'll go to Gary's, I'll go to Dane's. You're going to get one perspective. But if you jump on with Megan or with me or with Chris, David, Kat, I'm sure that there's all these people there. Everybody has a different perspective. And that's exactly what I was talking about this morning with something that showed up with the business, is everyone has a different point of view. I'm like, yeah, but we're not all trying to have the same point of view. We perceive things in a different way. So how Megan looks at something and how I look at something, neither is right or wrong, but we perceive something in a different way. So what I would highly recommend is jumping on all of it. And then you're like, you go, what applies to my business? How can I use this? And you'll hear these things like, boop, 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 this. Because your business is your business. Nobody creates your business the way you create your business, but use us, use all the tools that we have and try them out, like give them a go.
And, I still like listen to every single one of the people that's on this mentorship series because I'm so inspired all the time about a different way that you're looking at something than I am. I went to Chris Hughes did a Right Voice for You certified facilitator training after Global Foundation last year. He's doing another one as well this year. It wasn't on my plan, like it wasn't in my schedule. And I was just like, I'm going. And it was one of those classes that like awakened something in me that I had not been willing to choose until that point of like really getting my voice out into the world in the weirdest ways that I could. And I was like, I needed that. And then I've been on calls with you or classes with you, Simone, and I'm like, I fucking needed that today. Like, what if we're just here for each other? And also, this is not just a one-way street. Like, we're going to have a Telegram thread. What do you know? What has been pinging you? Because your awareness is also super valuable. And that's what I love about all of Access is what do you know? Like, what if we together can create something really, really different and really cool? And I'm excited. So
Me too. And that's such a big, I just like, okay, last thing is that extrapolation energy too. I mean, recently I call my team of people that I work with the magic crew. But one thing I'm always asking for is extrapolation because I can come up with an idea, but then it's just my idea. But if I have everyone sort of go, hey, like, what about this or add this or doing this way or the timing or anything, it's like it adds to something greater. And like you said, like what contribution can we all be for each other? Let's change the world with ease, joy, and glory.
yeah. And my new favorite, Magic, Miracles, and Chaos.
Yes.
And if you don't, you can get a t-shirt. Simone's selling them and they're very hot and sexy and
The
wonderful.
website will be up soon called Whatever Makes You Happy with the U. So you can register your interest on there if you want to. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Simone, so much for coming on. And thanks. I know we have a lot of translators behind the scenes and amazing people helping us work technology because that's really interesting these days for me. So thank you all. And what else is possible now? Have too much fun at Elgar, Simone, on your last day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, translators.
Yay.